On the 8th of September 2022, the course of history took a new turn. As the sun set on Queen Elizabeth II's historic reign, the world looked on as a nation and a family embarked on a new era, the centre of which is one man. He was Prince Charles for all of his 73 years, until, on that rainy autumn day, he became king. After 7 decades, this chapter was all he had been waiting for, but was it all that he expected? The year that followed was his chance to carve out his identity and his place in history. It was a year of mourning, political turbulence, family feuds, and a war in Europe. But it was also a year of celebration, friendship, cooperation, and a look towards how the role of monarchy would evolve in the 21st century. Here we take a look back on King Charles III's defining year, what it meant for him, what it meant for Britain, what it meant for the world, and what it tells us about the future of his reign and the kind of king he is destined to be. Let's start at the beginning. It's Thursday the 8th of September 2022. In London, Britain's new Prime Minister is not yet a week into her premiership, and top of her agenda is to tackle the UK's energy crisis. In Windsor, it's the first day of term for the royal children, George, Charlotte and Louis, attending Lambrook School for the first time since their parents William and Kate moved the family out of the capital. In the Scottish Highlands, the Queen, the then Prince Charles, Camilla and Princess Anne are holidaying on the Balmoral estate. To the outside world, it was business as usual, but at 12:32 p.m, it emerged that all was not well. Buckingham Palace issued a statement to say doctors were concerned for the Queen's health and that Her Majesty was under medical supervision. By 4 p.m, senior members of the royal family, Prince William, Prince Edward, Sophie, Countess of Wessex, and Prince Andrew were flying to Aberdeen, and an hour later they arrived at Balmoral. Then, at precisely 6:30 p.m,
the Queen died peacefully at Balmoral this afternoon.
Buckingham Palace has announced the death of Queen Elizabeth II, the longest reigning monarch in British history.
And we are interrupting regular programming to bring you breaking news. It is with deep sadness that Buckingham Palace has announced Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, the longest reigning monarch in Commonwealth history, has died at the age of 96.
It is with great sadness that we interrupt our program to tell you that Queen Elizabeth II has passed away.
The Queen has died. It's the day we knew was inevitable, but had hoped would never come.
And so the reign of Elizabeth II comes to a close after 70 years at the age of 96. Her son Charles is now king.
The transition was seamless. The reign of King Charles III began at the moment of his mother's last breath. We first heard from the king shortly after the news broke. In a written statement, the sense of grief was palpable. The death of my beloved mother, Her Majesty the Queen, is a moment of the greatest sadness for me and all members of my family, he wrote. Continuing, we mourn profoundly the passing of a cherished sovereign and a much-loved mother. I know her loss will be deeply felt throughout the country, the realms and the Commonwealth, and by countless people around the world. During this period of mourning and change, my family and I will be comforted and sustained by our knowledge of the respect and deep affection in which the Queen was so widely held. The deep personal loss was evident, but with it, the profound sense of duty held so dearly by his late mother also emerged. And, after one night of reprieve, the King's work began in earnest. Together with his Queen Consort, Charles III returned to London the following day. In the first of many firsts, His Majesty met his people outside Buckingham Palace, visibly moved by the crowds that had gathered to pay their respects to the past and usher in the future.
He behaved like a king today. He didn't just go straight in, he came to see
the people.
See the people.
I feel a bit sorry for him. I bet deep down he's really sad, but I think it's nice of him to come and meet the crowd. I think he'll
do a good job. And she'll be proud of him.
It's really inspirational. I think having lost his mum, to come here and just be really stable, I think it's a time of change.
He's ready to embrace new ideas. He's more willing to be a bit more open, I think. I think we're going to see a little bit of change from the monarchy now.
The Buckingham Palace walkabout set the tone for the 12 days of mourning that followed. Though grappling with personal grief, the king never kept behind palace doors for too long. In leading the official mourning period, His Majesty undertook a gruelling schedule of meetings, visits, and ceremonial duties. He toured all four corners of the nation as his late mother's coffin made its way from Edinburgh to London, where it lay in state in Westminster Hall. The king and his siblings stood vigil beside the coffin as members of the public filed past to pay their last respects. And then, like in so many aspects of this ancient family, the next generation followed in their example. The Queen's last journey continued to Westminster Abbey for her state funeral and subsequently to her final resting place in Windsor. The king was there every step of the way. Becoming king was the culmination of a long personal journey for Charles, but it also marked a much anticipated transition in public life. Queen Elizabeth II was widely considered one of the best acquainted world leaders of all time. During her 70-year reign, she hosted more than 100 state visits, carried out countless tours all over the world, met with 13 US presidents, and oversaw 15 prime ministers at home. Over the last year, Charles has begun to scratch the surface of this impressive headcount, though he may not have expected to get off to such a rapid start when it came to Westminster. If the Queen had been a symbol of stability, it was perhaps apt that around the time of her death, British politics fell into a period of unprecedented turbulence. Liz Truss was the 15th and final Prime Minister to form a government in Her late Majesty's name, having met with the monarch at Balmoral just 2 days before her death. Not long after, the king held an audience with his first PM, and could his comments have foreshadowed what was to come for the ill-fated Truss administration?
It's a great pleasure.
Dear, oh dear indeed. Alongside her Chancellor Kwasi Kwarteng, the Prime Minister's brash economic policies sent the markets into freefall.
I am a fighter and not a quitter.
She was ousted after just 44 days in office.
Thank you.
Barely a month after first meeting the king, she returned to the palace, as is custom, to hand in her resignation. And next through the revolving political door was her successor, Rishi Sunak. 2 prime ministers in 2 months for the king. But whatever the goings-on at home, as head of state, the British monarch remains a fundamentally global figure, and King Charles is no stranger to the world stage. Some 500 world leaders attended the state funeral of Queen Elizabeth II, and around 100 returned to the UK for Charles's coronation. In the days leading up to both events, His Majesty personally received various leaders from the Commonwealth and beyond. He hosted his first state visit when the red carpet was rolled out for the South African President Cyril Ramaphosa at Buckingham Palace in November. And in July 2023, US President Joe Biden, who had been represented at the coronation by his wife Jill and granddaughter Finnegan, was welcomed to Windsor Castle with a royal salute and guard of honour. In March 2023, Charles and Camilla carried out their first official visit overseas as King and Queen, a 3-day trip to Germany that was seen as largely successful. His Majesty won hearts by twice showing off his German language skills and poking fun at the testy Anglo-German football rivalry. Though the royal visit to Germany was a predominantly jolly affair, the king remained sensitive to the bleaker picture across the European landscape. Russia was 196 days into its invasion of Ukraine when Charles took the throne, and now, a year on, the war is showing no sign of slowing down. As king, Charles must distance himself from politics and foreign policy, something that may not come naturally to him after a lifetime as Prince of Wales, making his views known. But he has been able to be active in showing his personal support for the Ukrainian people. In October 2022, he met with refugees in Aberdeen, and the following month he officially opened a new Ukrainian welcome centre in London. As the war neared its one-year mark in February, His Majesty received Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky at Buckingham Palace.
Well, we've all been worried about you and thinking about your country for so long, I can't tell you.
And visited Ukrainian troops taking part in training exercises with British soldiers.
So it's an amazing feeling to be in the presence of His Majesty, and that it is unbelievable that we had this opportunity today. I am amazed by having the ability to meet His Majesty the King today. His Majesty was asked how we would do, how the training was going. He inquired as to our health. He inquired how the training was going to be used in further actions. But what particularly stood out for myself was that he took a particular interest in the well-being of our families, of our wives, our children.
But of course it shows the support of both the nation and the monarchy towards something that's very, very important for all of us.
On the anniversary of the invasion, the King paid tribute to the truly remarkable courage and resilience of the Ukrainian people in the face of the unnecessary suffering inflicted upon them. He added, "I can only hope the outpouring of solidarity from across the globe may bring not only practical aid, but also strength from the knowledge that together we stand united." It's difficult to reflect on King Charles's first year on the throne without remarking on the ever-present legacy of his late mother. In many ways, Queen Elizabeth made sure to tie up all loose ends of her reign by the time it ended. She appeared on Buckingham Palace balcony for one last time as she attended her Platinum Jubilee celebrations in June 2022. She ensured her wishes were known for Camilla to assume the role of Queen Consort when the time came. And, as we've seen, she even saw in one last Prime Minister just days before she died. But in family life, there remained a great dilemma that proved unsolvable within the Queen's lifetime. He's called Harry. By the time Charles assumed the throne, the feud between his sons was well known and widely documented. Following their controversial withdrawal from royal life and move across the Atlantic, Harry and Meghan had launched several missiles over palace walls, claiming the firm had failed to protect them, made them victims of vicious competition between royal households, and fed them to the bloodthirsty media wolves. And there was more to come. The first blow was Harry and Meghan's Netflix documentary that landed on the streaming site in December.
As far as a lot of the family were concerned, everything that she was being put through, they had been put through as well. So it was almost like a rite of passage. And I said, the difference here is the race element. In this family, sometimes, you're part of the problem rather than part of the solution. And there is a huge level of unconscious bias.
In the face of these claims, the King opted for the age-old royal philosophy of never complain, never explain. The family carried on with business as usual, and despite being painted as cold and distant, were all smiles at the Christmas Carol service hosted by the Princess of Wales. The palace did not comment on the documentary or the allegations made, but just a week later was forced to address another race row that erupted under its roof. Ngozi Fulani, who was at the time chief executive of domestic abuse charity Sister Space, had attended a reception hosted by the Queen Consort at Buckingham Palace the month before. It was there that she met Lady Susan Hussey, a lady-in-waiting to the late Queen and godmother to Prince William.
She demanded to know where I was from. No, really where I was from. No, where I was really from. And no matter how many times I answered her, it wasn't the response she wanted. It can't be that you invite people from different demographics to attend a function about violence against women and girls, and they are faced with non-physical violence. So that's what needs to be addressed.
In an unusual move for the palace, the issue was addressed. Susan Hussey resigned, the palace apologised, and organised a meeting between the two women to resolve the row. Buckingham Palace then released a statement saying, "At this meeting, filled with warmth and understanding, Lady Susan offered her sincere apologies for the comments that were made and the distress they caused to Miss Fulani. Lady Susan has pledged to deepen her awareness of the sensitivities involved and is grateful for the opportunity to learn more about the issues in this area." Sadly, reports of such warmth and understanding have not appeared between the sovereign and the Sussexes, with neither party seeming to engage in the same problem-solving spirit. It could perhaps have been due to Missile Number 2, Prince Harry's explosive memoir Spare, and various television interviews surrounding its publication. In the ghost-written account, Harry alleged that William had physically attacked him, that the brothers had begged their father not to marry Camilla, and that his stepmother was embroiled in a dangerous deal with the British press to rehabilitate her public image at the expense of other royals. At the time of publication in January, there was, as ever, no royal response. In fact, contact between the family was minimal, and as preparations continued for the upcoming coronation, questions swirled as to whether the king's second son would even attend. Harry himself said relations would need to improve if he were to do so.
There's a lot that can happen between now and then. But, the door is always open. The ball is in their court. There's a lot to be discussed, and I really hope that they are willing to sit down and talk about it.
It's unclear whether they did indeed sit down and talk about it, but come April, something did seem to have shifted. The palace released a statement which read, "Buckingham Palace is pleased to confirm that the Duke of Sussex will attend the coronation service at Westminster Abbey on the 6th of May. The Duchess of Sussex will remain in California with Prince Archie and Princess Lilibet." It was by no means a sign of full reconciliation. The rift was still very much alive, and indeed the presence of Harry may have been cause for concern for those whose alleged misdemeanours he so publicly laid bare. Harry found himself sat 2 rows behind his brother during the service, and while the heir travelled back to the palace in the Diamond Jubilee state coach, the spare made a swift exit by car. But for all of the fallout, Harry's presence was a move that kept the door, even just ever so slightly, open for possible future peacemaking, and would no doubt have been of comfort to the king to have both his sons by his side for his life-defining date with destiny. The crowning glory of his first year on the throne and the defining moment of his lifetime. Here is a closer look at that most special day. It was a day for the history books. Charles had already been king for 8 months, but this was the moment he and the world had been waiting for. An ancient ceremony that has been held in Westminster Abbey for the last 9 centuries. The crowning of a sovereign is a rich tapestry of military displays, religious significance, and sacred oaths. The coronation of King Charles III was no different, but many aspects of this great state occasion were decidedly personal, offering an insight into the man behind the monarch and where he might be taking the crown. The king was crowned alongside his wife on Saturday the 6th of May 2023, in a dazzling spectacle of pomp, pageantry and people. 2,000 invited guests filled the Abbey, thousands of spectators lined the streets outside, and hundreds of millions tuned in around the world to watch this rare phenomenon. The day began with the arrival of more than 5,000 members of the armed forces who travelled by train to take part in the processions. By 7 a.m, the Abbey doors were open, and it was shortly jam-packed with the great and good of Britain and beyond. Those with the golden ticket included foreign royals, world leaders, political powerhouses, greats of the stage and screen, religious representatives, and charity champions. The King and Queen made their way to the ceremony in the Diamond Jubilee state coach, accompanied by a splendid household cavalry march. The impressive military procession lasted 1.42 miles, and at the end of it, Charles emerged as we had never seen him before. Clad in opulent coronation robes, their majesties processed through the Abbey. We saw Prince George carry out his ceremonial duty of page of honour to his grandfather, and the Queen was also attended by her grandchildren. The air of antiquity was potent as the traditional vivat acclamations reverberated around the ancient walls, the Latin words translating to "Long live Queen Camilla" and "Long live King Charles." Throughout, deference was met with humility.
As children of the kingdom of God, we welcome you in the name of the King of Kings.
In his name and after his example, I come not to be served, but to serve.
And solemn promises brought to light the deep sense of duty and service. And then the most sacred part, hidden from view. Charles, divested of his robes, was anointed with holy oil by the Archbishop of Canterbury. Behind the screen, a moment of quiet between King and God. Next, the king took to the 700-year-old coronation chair upon the ancient stone of destiny, where he was presented with orb, sceptre, and then crown. St. Edward's crown was placed on his head, the one and only time he'll wear it in his lifetime.
Life and limb.
Prince William paid
So help me
homage
God.
to his father, the king, pledging his loyalty with a kiss on the cheek, as members of the congregation and public were invited to also swear their allegiance. And for the first time since 1937, a queen consort was crowned too, something Camilla must have once thought an impossibility. God Save the King rang out, and His Majesty wore the magnificent imperial state crown as he and his queen stepped out of the abbey and into their new life. The afternoon continued much in the same celebratory vein. The gold state coach sailed back to Buckingham Palace among a sea of soldiers in the biggest military show since 1953. The rain couldn't dampen the spirits of the jubilant onlookers, thrilled to catch a glimpse of the king, or even better, mischievous Prince Louis up to his usual tricks. A royal salute from his armed forces.
3 cheers for His Majesty, the King, and Her Majesty, the Queen! Hip hip! Hip hip! Hip hip!
A fly past from the Red Arrows, and an outpouring from the thousands who braved the British weather to witness this moment of history. In July, the coronation was officially celebrated in Scotland with a service of thanksgiving at St Giles's Cathedral, complete with procession and flypast. But this celebration, Coronation Day itself, and several other days in the King's short reign were not solely displays of undiluted adulation. While many who have been present at a royal event or engagement have revelled in the pomp and pageantry, others have seized the opportunity to voice their opposition to the King and what he stands for. Banners and chants of "Not My King" have been frequent accessories to royal events over the past year. But one anti-royal protester chose to take a more extreme course of action. Patrick Thelwell, a 23-year-old university student, threw not 1, not 2, but 4 eggs at the King during a visit to York. The monarch attempted to ignore the onslaught while his security team sprung to action, and the visit, which was to unveil a statue of the late Queen at York Minster, went ahead unaffected. Thelwell, who was swiftly arrested, told police the King deserved the egging, describing it as the only justice the victims of colonialism will ever get. He was subsequently found guilty of threatening behaviour and handed a 12-month community order with 100 hours of unpaid work. After his day in court, Thelwell stood by his actions.
I think the judge focused on the specifics of the case, which is like, did I throw an egg or not? And I never denied that I did. But, you know, at the same time, I also didn't apologise for it.
In the months since the Eggy escapade, it appears the country isn't quite ready for any major change just yet. Polling by YouGov suggests 62% of Brits believe the UK should continue having a monarchy, compared to 26% with the opposite view, largely on par with opinion.
Think of all the things that come to mind when you hear the words Great Britain, and chances are you'll find many of them on a Saturday in June at the Trooping the Colour ceremony. This military spectacle, which marks the official birthday of the King or Queen, is the sort of event the United Kingdom does best. Pomp, pageantry, music, gun salutes, flag-waving crowds, soldiers in bearskin caps, and the extended royal family at Buckingham Palace, all tied up with red, white and blue smoke trails. Trooping the Colour is believed to have started as a practice to ensure soldiers could easily spot their unit in the heat and chaos of battle. Different regiments of the British Army carried their own flags, or colours, on the battlefield. The colours used to be trooped in front of the soldiers every day to make sure they could recognise their regiment. The ceremony of Trooping the Colour is believed to have first been performed for King Charles II, who reigned between 1660 and 1685. It was first used to mark the monarch's official birthday in 1748, during the reign of King George II, and became an annual tradition under his successor, George III. But we were still some way off from the ceremony that we recognise today. Horse Guards Parade, on the opposite side of St James's Park from Buckingham Palace, wasn't used for Trooping the Colour until 1805. Further changes took place at the start of the 20th century under Edward VII. He was the first monarch to regularly receive the royal salute in person. It was also Edward who was responsible for the monarch having 2 official birthdays. The reason for this is a typically British one. Edward VII was born in November, but decided to keep the official birthday ceremony in May or June because the weather would be better. As it happened though, 3 Trooping the Colour ceremonies were cancelled during his reign due to bad weather. Finally, the parade has been held on a Saturday in June every year since 1959, with the exception of 2022, which was held on a Thursday during Queen Elizabeth II's Platinum Jubilee celebrations. Elizabeth attended every Trooping the Colour ceremony during her 70-year reign, with the exception of just one. In 1955, her birthday parade had to be cancelled due to a train strike.
Number 10 Downing Street to review the latest developments in the railway dispute and to make plans for all emergencies.
Elizabeth also witnessed 2 slimmed-down private trooping ceremonies in 2020 and 2021, configured to meet social distancing regulations during the COVID-19 pandemic. So, who's involved? Well, the monarch of the United Kingdom, of course, who is also Commander-in-Chief of the British Armed Forces. The histories of the monarchy and the military are intertwined, dating back to times when the king was responsible for raising and maintaining an army. The king and other members of the royal family hold appointments and honorary ranks within the armed forces. Charles III has a close relationship with all 3 branches of the military. He received Royal Air Force training whilst he was at university, flying Chipmunk and Bassett CC-1 aircraft. After his passing out ceremony, Charles joined the Royal Navy, serving on guided missile destroyers and as a gunnery officer. His military career ended in 1976, but as Prince of Wales, he remained as regimental colonel of the Welsh Guards until 2022, when he acceded to the throne. The King's birthday parade involves 1,400 officers and soldiers, 200 horses and 400 musicians, parading from Buckingham Palace down the Mall to Horse Guards Parade. Horse Guards Parade was formerly the tilt yard of the Palace of Whitehall, which used to be the main residence of English monarchs until the end of the 17th century. Jousting and other tournaments were held here during the reign of Henry VIII. The Horse Guards building, on the eastern side of the square, used to be the headquarters of the British Army during the 18th and 19th centuries. Members of the royal family often watched the birthday parade on the square from the former office of the Duke of Wellington, who commanded British-led forces to victory in the 1815 Battle of Waterloo. More recently, it was used to host the beach volleyball competition during the 2012 Summer Olympic Games in London. The soldiers who take part in the parade form one of the oldest bodies within the British Army, the Household Division. They are the King's personal troops and have been since the restoration of the monarchy in 1660, following the end of the English Civil War and subsequent interregnum. The Household Division includes 5 regiments of Foot Guards, the Grenadier Guards, the Coldstream Guards, the Scots Guards, the Irish Guards, and the Welsh Guards. Only one colour can be trooped in front of the sovereign at the birthday parade, and so the 5 regiments take turns to do so annually. Soldiers are divided into 6 Foot Guard companies who form an L shape around the perimeter of the Horse Guards parade square. This is similar to a defensive formation called the Hollow Square, used in battle to protect the regiment's colour. The number 1 guard are called the Escort for the colour. The guards have now formed up, and members of the royal family begin to arrive in barouche coaches. The sovereign rides down the Mall, either on horseback or by carriage. Queen Elizabeth II rode her mare, Burmese, at the parade from 1969 to 1986. In 1981, a man shot 6 blanks at both the monarch and her mare on the corner of the Mall and Horse Guards Road. Burmese was startled, and it took the Queen's skills as a horsewoman to bring her under control. Both were unharmed. In 1987, Burmese was retired, and Elizabeth began travelling by carriage instead. Burmese subsequently joined the police part-time before being put out to grass in the fields of Windsor.
Once you've ridden a horse of this calibre, all other horses pale into the distance.
Another famous horse in the household cavalry was Sefton, a black gelding who was severely injured by an IRA bomb at Hyde Park in 1982, but recovered and returned to duties just 2 months later.
He's a strong character, obviously. Extremely strong character, yeah.
He retired in 1984 and died in 1993 at the age of 30. King Charles III debuted his mare Noble at the 2023 parade, his first trooping the colour as monarch. Born and raised in Ontario, the 16.2-hand Black Hanoverian was a gift from the Royal Canadian Mounted Police on the occasion of Charles and Queen Camilla's coronation. The King must have remembered his own words at Noble's first trooping the colour when she appeared restless. It took much of Charles's experience and skill to command her. The monarch is accompanied to Horse Guards Parade by the Sovereign's escort, consisting of the troops of the Household Cavalry Mounted Regiment and the Mounted Bands. They all salute the colour as they pass by. The timing at this event is precise. The Sovereign arrives at the entrance to Horse Guards building at exactly 11 o'clock. When he reaches the dais, the King is greeted by a royal salute and the playing of the national anthem. The king then inspects the troops, wearing their full-dress ceremonial uniform of red coats and bearskin caps. The scarlet tunics originate from the Welsh red of the House of Tudor. The bearskin caps were originally worn by the French Imperial Guard and then adopted by the Grenadier Guards after the Battle of Waterloo. The procession turns before number 6 guard and salutes the colour. The sovereign salutes the king's troop during this inspection. He is led by the brigade major and followed by the 2 mounted royal colonels, the Princess Royal, Colonel of the Blues and Royals, and the colonel of that year's trooping regiment, the Prince of Wales for the Welsh Guards, the Duchess of Cambridge for the Irish Guards, the Duke of Edinburgh for the Scots Guards, Lieutenant General Sir James Bucknell for the Coldstream Guards, and the Queen for the Grenadier Guards. The king takes his place on the dais for the rest of the ceremony. The massed bands of the Foot Guards perform a musical troupe, a quick and a slow tune, and the colour of the regiment is carried through the ranks of the Foot Guards. Next comes the drummer's call, the signal to the escort for the colour to march to the centre of the square and collect the colour. The Sergeant Major moves to the rear of the escort and draws his sword for the only time in the ceremony, and formally takes charge of the colour. He then hands it over to the ensign to be trooped. This is the most significant moment in the ceremony. There is another royal salute, and the opening 6 bars of the national anthem are played. The escort for the colour, having taken possession, now becomes the escort to the colour. The foot guards then march past in slow and quick time, before the King's Troop Royal Horse Artillery and the Sovereign's escort of the Household Cavalry ride past at the walk and the trot. Then comes a salute from the drum horses. These are the biggest horses in the parade. The two used in the 2023 ceremony are called Apollo and Juno. The other two are named Perseus and Atlas. Juno was officially named by Queen Camilla in the week leading up to that year's ceremony. After the walk and trot pasts, the director of music signals to hand back control to the field officer, which is followed by another royal salute. The field officer asks the sovereign permission to march off. Now begins the march back to Buckingham Palace. king rides back to the palace at the head of his guards, before taking a further salute at Centre Gate, and the troops return to barracks. This formally marks the end of the parade, the guards having escorted the sovereign back to Buckingham Palace. A great ceremonial royal standard flies above. Measuring 11.6 by 5.8 metres, it is similar in size to a badminton court. It only flies on special occasions, including the birthday parade and also the annual Garter service at Windsor Castle. The crowds are finally allowed to surge down the Mall towards the gates of Buckingham Palace, where they will see the royal family appear on the balcony. The Mall is lined with 66 Union Jacks, whilst Horse Guards Road displays the flags of member countries of the Commonwealth of Nations. Meanwhile, a 41-gun salute is fired by the King's Troop Royal Horse Artillery from the Green Park, to the north of Buckingham Palace. Why 41 guns? Well, one theory says that the tradition of a 21-gun salute dates back to the 15th century, when 21 rounds would be fired from guns in a harbour to welcome an unarmed warship that had no hostile intentions. The Green Park is one of 8 royal parks in London, and an additional 20 rounds are added if it takes place in any of these parks. The salute takes 6 minutes to complete. Finally, at 1 o'clock, the royal family gather on Buckingham Palace balcony to watch a flypast. This is the Royal Air Force's time to shine, boasting an array of modern military aircraft. It also features a Battle of Britain memorial flight, comprising a Lancaster bomber flanked by Hurricanes or Spitfires, the aircraft used in the Second World War. A flypast was performed for the first time at Trooping the Colour in 1913 for King George V, by what was then called the Royal Flying Corps. The crown jewel in the flypast, and for many people of the entire day, is the Royal Air Force's aerobatic team, better known as the Red Arrows, who leave trails of red, white and blue smoke as they fly low over Buckingham Palace. But it is not just these 9 pilots who have their moment in the sun. It also gives the crowd below, and the people watching at home, a chance to see what antics the royal children get up to on the balcony. So that's the birthday parade celebrations over. But did you know that Trooping the Colour actually takes place over 3 consecutive weekends? 2 weeks before the main event comes the Major General's Review, followed by the Colonel's Review the weekend after. These both serve as dress rehearsals for the birthday parade, but feature fewer mounted officers. In the Major General's Review, it is the Major General commanding the Household Division who inspects the soldiers, rather than the King. Equally, in the Colonel's Review, it is the Colonel of that year's regiment who inspects the troops. In 2023, it was William, Prince of Wales, as the Welsh Guards trooped their colour. The ceremonies can take their toll on the soldiers involved, particularly when London's summer temperatures surpass 30 degrees Celsius. Soldiers have been known to faint in the baking heat and have to be stretchered off to receive attention. A reminder of the huge amounts of concentration, fitness and stamina required of the soldiers on parade. Trooping the Colour is a vibrant display of military prowess and precision, equestrian expertise, stirring music and public celebration. Its traditions and adaptations through the centuries are a fitting way to mark the birthday of the sovereign, the national figurehead who continually balances the country's tension between change and continuity. Like every birthday celebration, inclement weather, industrial action and a coronavirus pandemic have all managed to scupper or alter plans. But this most British of traditions always returns, bigger, louder and more colourful than ever. She first came to public attention as Camilla Parker Bowles. When she did, the idea of her marrying the Prince of Wales was unthinkable. She was, after all, the other woman. And yet, in 2005, she became the Duchess of Cornwall, officially a member of the royal family. 17 years later, she became Queen Consort of the United Kingdom, a title bestowed on her with the blessing of Britain's longest ever reigning monarch. Camilla trod an arduous path from the peripheries of the British royal saga to become one of its central characters. To the man who brought her there, she is known as Gladys, whilst Charles is called Fred. The couple met in the early 1970s, but their connection goes back much further than that. The story begins with an upper-class socialite who is both the daughter and the wife of a military officer, but who is better known for her affair with the future king. That woman's name, though, is Alice Keppel. The year is 1898, and she became the favourite mistress of Edward, the then Prince of Wales, who succeeded Queen Victoria to the British throne in 1901. Their relationship lasted until Edward's death in 1910. Edward VII is Charles III's great-great-grandfather. More pertinently, Alice Keppel is Camilla's great-grandmother. The relationship is reported to have been mentioned by Camilla's friend when she introduced her to Charles for the first time in the early 1970s. The Prince of Wales and Miss Shand became close friends and began a romantic relationship, often meeting at polo matches. They adopted unusual nicknames for each other, Fred and Gladys, 2 characters from the 1960s radio programme The Goon Show, of which Charles was a fan. However, despite Camilla's upper-class surroundings and historic links to the monarchy, the royal family did not approve of her as a future wife for Charles at the time, and the couple soon drifted apart. In 1971, Charles had joined the Royal Navy from the Royal Air Force and went on to serve on board the frigate HMS Minerva, which was posted to the Caribbean in 1973. That same year, Camilla married Major Andrew Parker Bowles of the Household Regiment. The couple settled at Bolehide Manor in Wiltshire and had 2 children together, Tom and Laura. In adulthood, Tom became a food writer and critic, inspired by his mother's own cooking. Through Tom and Laura, Camilla has 5 grandchildren, 3 of whom were pages of honour at Camilla's coronation in 2023. Her granddaughter Eliza was a bridesmaid at the wedding of Prince William and Catherine in 2011. Despite Camilla's marriage to Parker Bowles and Charles's career in the Navy, the 2 remained friends throughout the 1970s. They grew close to one another again in 1979, following the assassination of Lord Mountbatten by Irish Republican paramilitary force, the Provisional IRA. Mountbatten was Charles's great-uncle, a mentor of the future king who had a strong influence during his upbringing. His death had a profound impact on Charles, and it was at this time he found solace in Camilla. By the following year, the couple had rekindled their romantic relationship. It was also in 1980 that Charles became romantically involved with Lady Diana Spencer. They married the following year and had 2 sons together, Prince William and Prince Harry. But Camilla was not fully out of the picture, and just 5 years into his marriage to Diana, Charles again rekindled his relationship with Camilla, having judged that his marriage was irretrievably broken down. It was not until the early 1990s that Charles and Camilla's affair became public knowledge. Secret recordings of an intimate phone conversation between the two were transcribed and published in the tabloid press in 1993, a scandal dubbed Camillagate or Tampongate. Charles's and Camilla's public images suffered hugely as a result, just as Diana's popularity was rising. Camilla divorced Andrew Parker Bowles in 1995, and Charles divorced Diana the following year. The couple was still attracting negative publicity, but Charles insisted his relationship to Camilla was non-negotiable. Princess Diana was tragically killed in a Paris car crash in 1997, and it was only 2 years after this seismic loss that Charles and Camilla began attending events in public together. This one at the Ritz in London in 1999 was their first, although the year before, at the same venue, they had arrived separately for the marriage of their friends, Simon Sebag Montefiore and Santa Palmer Tompkinson. In 2000, Camilla met Queen Elizabeth II for the first time since her relationship to Prince Charles was made public. The meeting was seen as the Queen's seal of approval, particularly as, in her role as Supreme Governor of the Church of England, her son and heir to the throne was in a relationship with a divorcee. The Queen invited Camilla to her Golden Jubilee celebrations in 2002. The following year, Charles and Camilla moved into Clarence House, the former home of his grandmother, the Queen Mother. In February 2005, it was announced that Charles and Camilla were engaged and would marry in April. It was news that would have seemed unthinkable just a few years before, and yet, by the time of their engagement, public opinion had largely swung in favour of Charles and Camilla marrying.
I think it's wonderful. It's time he had some happiness, both of them.
I think good on him. I think it's about time they made a commitment.
Well, you know, he's loved her for a long time. They've been together for a long time. Why shouldn't he marry her?
Why keep it under the carpet? The guy loves her, then go for it.
Well, of course, it's absolutely wonderful news, and all of us, the whole family, are delighted. I don't think one wants to say much more than that, but I'm very happy to reiterate this.
Questions from the press about the upcoming wedding clearly irritated Charles at this photo call on a skiing holiday in Switzerland.
Very happy, very pleased. Be a good day.
Well, it's a very nice thought, isn't it? I'm very glad you've heard of it anyway. Bloody people. I can't bear that. He's so brilliant.
Despite both being divorcees, their wedding was approved by the Queen, the British government, and the Church of England.
Mum, are you pleased at today's announcement about Charles and Camilla?
However, the marriage did not meet with universal royal approval. In his 2023 memoir, Spare, Prince Harry wrote that he and brother William begged their father not to marry Camilla, the Duke of Sussex going so far as to label Camilla and her relationship with the press as dangerous. Although intended to take place on the 8th of April, the wedding was postponed until the following day so that Prince Charles could attend the funeral of Pope John Paul II. Charles and Camilla were wed in a civil ceremony at the Windsor Guildhall. Queen Elizabeth, perhaps feeling conflicted by her role at the head of the Church of England, did not attend this part of the service, although she did attend a service of blessing in nearby St George's Chapel at Windsor Castle. Despite now being officially a member of the royal family, Camilla announced that she did not wish to be called princess, nor queen when Charles acceded to the throne. She instead took the title of Duchess of Cornwall, and following a honeymoon on the Balmoral estate in Scotland, the couple began their first public engagements as Duke and Duchess.
Nothing could give us greater pleasure than in tandem to unveil this pack. Very, very fetching Cornish tart. Will you carry over the Sir John English assistance?
Camilla's first solo engagement was in May 2005 on England's south coast, visiting the osteoporosis unit at Southampton General Hospital. Her mother Rosalind suffered from the disease for many years, and since her death in 1994, Camilla has campaigned to raise awareness of the condition.
There we go. Almost like I've got it wrong.
It's a very splendid looking cake. Is it baked by anybody here?
Sadly not. I think it's procured by somebody here.
It's obviously got something delicious inside it. But before I go, can I say thank you to all of you for doing so much for Osteoporosis Society. As I say, I have been here for a very long time too. I think when I first met Linda Edwards, I think there were 2 people working in the office. It was absolutely tiny, and we did think to ourselves, what are we going to do to try and make it bigger and better, and will it ever happen? And I now look and see what's happening now, and I have to pinch myself to believe it.
There are many causes close to the Queen's heart, including animal welfare, the prevention of violence against women and girls, literacy, and environmental conservation, in addition to the many patronages she holds.
Here's my friend.
I'm all about to see you. This is my latest addition. This is sausage.
This is sausage.
Sausage came from Romania.
Oh,
She's got a Polish chip.
Oh, I'm afraid I don't
And
speak
she's,
the language.
To be honest, a nightmare.
Oh, are you a well-behaved sausage?
Well, she's okay. She's an escape artist.
Oh, is she?
So we've had to literally fence off an entire field for her so she can go running round. So she gets on with the other dogs. She's had all my shoes. She's had her way through an armchair.
I think these people
We are. No, I've got a lot of things to tell you about these poor dogs.
The figures are shocking. Globally, nearly 1 in 3 women have been abused in their lifetime. In times of crisis, the numbers rise, as they have dramatically during the COVID pandemic. That we can have hope as we head towards our goal of ending violence against women and girls. Well, I'd like to thank all of you for the wonderful job you've done throughout lockdown, and especially, 2 causes that are very close to my heart: domestic abuse, opening these safe rooms.
It's a pebble sinking softly in a gently flowing brook. But it's never, no, it's never, no, it's never just a book. It's the topping on your 2, 3. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear beanstalk. Happy birthday to you.
Hello, you're very short. I think he's saying that he'd like to be outside. He would like to be outside.
The lovely Cornish tartan. Thank you, everybody involved, the children, the older people, and Elizabeth, who's put all this together. It's an incredible, as you said, it's the simplest ideas, and it's usually the simple things that really work.
This is the creator.
35 years ago, when I fell in love with an elephant, I still own her called Tara. She was actually the founder of Elephant Family, so I've got an elephant who actually is their founder. She basically taught me the way and showed me when I rode her across India that the Asian elephant was actually much more endangered. I'm not knocking African elephants at all, believe me, because we're all working together now.
Camilla's first overseas tour as the Duchess of Cornwall was to the United States, meeting then President and First Lady George W. and Laura Bush, and visiting the city of New Orleans, devastated 3 months earlier by Hurricane Katrina. As Duchess and as Queen, she has joined Charles on foreign trips to countries on every continent.
Okay, brilliant.
You're off the side.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Thank you. That's great. Thank you.
Back in the UK, Camilla has been present alongside Charles at special royal occasions, including the state opening of Parliament, Trooping the Colour, weddings and funerals.
My lords, pray be seated.
They have also come alongside people in the aftermath of upheaval and in commemoration of tragedy. The Prince of Wales and Duchess of Cornwall visited Tottenham in August 2011 after the London riots and returned 6 months later to see how the community was faring.
Ma'am, could you hold out Tottenham bag for us, please? That's lovely. Thank you. That's lovely. That's lovely.
In September the same year, they attended a 10th anniversary memorial service for the victims of September the 11th in New York.
Thank you.
Following Russia's invasion of Ukraine in February 2022, Charles and Camilla made private donations to help refugees fleeing